Gaikoku Gamers.
Bite-sized.
Welcome to Gaikoku Gamers. I'm Darryl Benson, and I need a haircut. Yes, it's okay, because I have the new JXD s7800b. Handheld's a lot better than a name. That's a horrible name. It's like they took the number from the Atari and then added an S and a B next to it, and then the JXD part's the company, to be fair. But this is it. It's actually quite a nice box. It's got the whole matte / glossy print thing going on. And as you can tell, that is your screen. And there's your video game player / Android tablet. So before you're deceived by the picture, no, this is not a 3D screen. They just make it look like he's jumping out of the picture because it's this action-packed. Anyway, so let's look at some of the stats. We got a 7-inch IPS display. Resolution is 1280 by 800 pixels. A 5-point capacitive touchscreen. Android 4.2.2. A quad-core CPU. 8 gigs of storage. Expandable via micro USB. Micro SD. There we go. And then of course, 2 gigs of RAM. Has HDMI out, 3.5mm stereo jack. Nice big battery. Blah 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 blah. But that's not really what you care about. What you care about is the fact that it has buttons built into the device, and that's where this device really separates itself from the crowd. Now, as you can tell, the screen is gorgeous. I mean, well, we'll talk about price later, but this is a very nice looking display. I'm not really too used to using 4.2.2. I'm used to using 4.4.4, I believe is what my Nexus 5 is on right now. Good stuff. You should buy this. It's all healthy, no GMOs, nothing. Delicious. Anyway, going back on topic. So you're probably asking, well, why do I want an Android tablet with controls? It's very simple, really. To play games with the controls. Seriously, there's this major problem right now where if you want to play, say, emulators on your Android, which is flat out the best mobile operating system for emulators, because Windows is non-existent. Let's be honest, and Apple is so locked down you can't really do anything unless you jailbreak it. So Android's pretty much your answer. But the problem is that if you buy an Android tablet, you end up having the unfortunateness that is on-screen controls. And while that might be okay for maybe like NES or Sega Master System or even Genesis, as soon as you start going into the controllers like the Super Nintendo, the N64, the PlayStation, where you have multiple triggers, it's pretty much damn near impossible in order to play by tapping on the screen. And that's where this comes in. Now, this thing is very large. I'm not really sure if I have anything here to compare it to. Let's see here. This is a Super Nintendo controller from Buffalo for the PC. Put this next to that, and it's like 4 Super Nintendo controllers. This thing is huge. A little weighty, like a good weighty. This is not like your stereotypical Chinese tablet where it weighs like 2 ounces and it feels like it's going to break. In fact, the build quality on this is actually really nice. It doesn't creak when you press it. There's no thin plastic here. Very well put together. There are some quibbles, I'll be honest with you. Nothing too major. There's these little humps here where you kind of grab. They're not quite bulged enough for my liking, and it does get a little uncomfortable after a long period of play, but honestly it's pretty good. I can live with that. What I don't like per se is the fact that it's so slippery right here. The back panel here, which I'm assuming comes off in order to reveal the battery, it has a nice, almost like a powder coat type of finish to it, and this is just really slippery. It'll make cleaning relatively easy, but I could have gone with a different, more matte, like the front finish to go with this awesome system. And I say it's awesome because it is awesome. You have two actual joysticks, as you can see, maybe. There's one, and there's the other. They are fully tiltable, as you can see. They are not a slider pad like you get on the 3DS or the PSP, and I like that. D-pad is quite nice. It's very much like a D-pad that you'd find on a Nintendo Portable. It doesn't rock quite like Sega D-pads, which is unfortunate. If I had to pick a D-pad to mimic, that would be it. It would be Saturn or Dreamcast. But it's not bad. Not by any stretch of the imaginations, and I haven't had too many problems with the D-pad whatsoever. It's very comfortable and large, and there's a bit of a pit in the center of the D-pad where your thumb kind of rests, which is kind of nice. And right here, maybe, there we go. Right here you have your home button. As you can tell, they're not, the home button, the back button, and the multitask button are not on screen like you would typically find. Instead, where am I? Instead, there is a home button here and a back and a menu button up here respectively. Down here is start and select. You have then 4 face buttons here and then 4 triggers on either side. This is quite interesting. Right down here you do have a button that will control, it'll bring up this little menu, and you can customize all the on-screen controls and map them to physical buttons. So this is not really for emulators. This is more for Android games that use touchscreen controls, and so you can kind of map those touchscreen controls to where the touchscreen controls are in the game and have them respond to your button presses instead, which is actually quite nice if I played Android games, which I don't. I bought this as an emulation machine, and for that purpose it's very nice. Damn near perfect, actually. It comes with what is called the Emulation Store. Now when you click on this, you'll be greeted to a whole bunch of emulators here. It's for NES, Super Nintendo, Famicom, Game Boy Color, Wonder Swan, Sega, N64, etc., etc., etc. Now you're probably thinking, oh, that's great, everything's good to go. No. First off, you need ROMs, and ROMs you can get by the legal means, which would be to get them off of the chip of the cartridge that you own, or other places. You choose. Anyway, it also comes with an app called Happy Chick, and I have actually not had a lot of success with this. It's supposed to go ahead and download a ROM from the internet, and then it's supposed to be able to link up with the emulators that are on this device. I found it very hard to actually find any good ROMs. Not that they don't work, but the list is just very short. But no matter. With the external little SD card here, you can just pop this out, put in your PC, get your ROMs any way, legally or illegally, that you choose, put them on there, and you're good to go. Now when I say you're good to go, you're not quite good to go yet. There are some emulators that come with the system that are not quite up to par. One of those is the N64 emulator. The N64 emulator that it comes with is Mupin Plus. Now, I'm sure you guys all know Mupin Plus, but that is not the latest version. Mupin Plus AE is the latest version. And while you may not think it, it means a world of difference. The stock N64 emulator Mupen 64 Plus is not so good. Certain games will play fine, like Wave Race 64, but every game, including Wave Race 64, has a lagging audio problem, where the audio comes about half second too late, which is a little hard on things that require perfect timing with sound effects, like trying to get a boost at the beginning of a race, that sort of thing. And it's also just distracting. But furthermore, certain games are damn near unplayable, if not completely unplayable, with that version of Mupen. So, to give you an example, F-Zero X is playable on both versions, technically. However, in order to go ahead and play F-Zero X on a stock Mupen 64 Plus emulator that the system comes with, that comes with the system, I should say, you need to be able to change a plugin to the one that's in the middle. And if you do that, while it works, there's graphical glitches galore, including background problems, and most importantly, there are no accurate textures on the cars themselves. And I know that's not the biggest thing in the world, but it really kind of takes it away. Also, couple in fact that all the sound effects are off by like a half second, and it just feels weird. So the first thing that I did, seeing as I bought this for N64 emulation, because it's my favorite system of all time, I went ahead and downloaded Mupen 64 Plus after playing around with Mupen 64 Plus, the one that came with this, extensively. I could not get everything to work the way I really wanted it. Don't get me wrong, certain things were very impressive, but especially the sound lag, I just couldn't take it. Plus AE is fantastic on the other hand. F-Zero on the first plugin with all the ladder frame rate type of stuff checked, and make sure you're on the not the highest compression audio, or else that'll cause a lot of graphical issues for whatever reason, and also the audio sounds like crap. But the low high compression audio, if you do all that, these games practically run like it's on an actual N64, except it's much better resolution. Now, what I mean by that is the polygons on an N64 cannot appear to be any sharper than they are on an HD TV. And that's even if you have what I have, which is the SCART RGB mod. It's always going to look like it has aliasing on the polygons. However, in emulation, you have very clear looking polygons, and it makes everything look really crisp. On top of that, there's filters and whatnot to make the textures and the 2D sprites look much better, and for sure this game looks phenomenal once you get all that pegged down. And it's actually quite easy, because basically it's nearly the stock settings outside of the audio setting that makes gameplay on most N64 games flawless. So far I've tried F-Zero X, I've tried Super Mario, I've tried Mario Kart, I've tried Wave Race and a number of Wipeout, a number of other games, and all of them worked fine. Now, I know that there were some games that were not working properly in the original version of Mupen 64 Plus that the system came with. I have not tried those. Those include Banjo-Tooie, which crashes after about 5 minutes into the game, and Hydro Thunder, which crashes as soon as you enter a level. After the countdown reaches 1 or nothing, it'll freeze and crash the app. However, I don't expect that with AE, because all the other games have been performing so much better. I can't imagine those having any problems whatsoever. So this is a fantastic system. The joysticks, you might be thinking, oh, they're going to be like Vita, really loose. I don't like joysticks in which, especially when it comes to small ones, I don't like joysticks in which it's really easy to go anywhere you want, because it doesn't encourage you to use, you know, slight press of the joystick instead of just full on. And this really comes in handy in games like F-Zero X, where the N64 controller which was nice. The joystick, not so much. And if you're like me and you have a Hori controller, well, that's definitely the better of the options of the two. The GameCube style joystick, it doesn't have nearly enough tension in it in order to keep your hover car banking around a turn without wanting to go all the way to the left or all the way to the right. This, on the other hand, I've been playing better than I do with a Hori controller. If that's a good recommendation, there's so much tension in a joystick that it really helps you keep it in line, halfway pressed to the left or right. Really happy with that. The digital triggers here, there's no analog triggers, but they work perfectly for emulation, because let's face it, unless you're emulating Dreamcast or newer, they're going to be digital triggers, and they work just fine. I have not tested PSP or Nintendo DS, although I do know that it technically works, just not perfectly, and not with all the games. I've heard about 60% of the games for each of those systems work. I have tested PlayStation 1 and 64, PC Engine. It does not come with the PC Engine emulator, but you can download PCE Emu, which is free. That's right there on the Google Play Store. Now, that's another thing I really like about this Android tablet. I bought cheap Android tablets which are far less powerful than this and far crappier built than this, and they don't usually come stock with Gmail, Google Maps, Google Play Store, YouTube, etc., etc., etc. And this does, and it really makes this feel more like an official real product. It also comes with a APK installer, which I quite appreciated, as well as a file explorer, so you can file manage your ROMs and your programs, which is fantastic. And there's plenty of other stuff here. It has two cameras, one in the front, one in the back. The way I kind of describe the camera quality is the one that's facing the back, which is the better of the two. It looks kind of like a Vita camera, so okay, nothing to write home about. And the one that's facing towards you, it reminds me of a 3DS, which is horrific. But you didn't buy that for the camera, so screw it, right? So this has been a fantastic adventure, and I'm going to go ahead and show you just why I love the system so much. Let us boot up F-Zero. Okay, so as you can tell, it looks fantastic. Let's get into a race here. You do have some popping of audio in the menus, but that's about it. Otherwise, it's very nice. D-pad works, joystick works, all this is stock. You don't have to set up the controls. The great thing about the system is that it kind of works like this out of the box. And as you can see, the cars are fully textured. Audio is playing in sync. Controls are perfect, although I look like I'm not doing very well because I'm playing this through my PC monitor with the system facing behind me. But as you can tell, it's perfect. Looks like an N64. And I'm dead. Too bad you lost your machine. Yes, we know. Give you another example. Let's exit this. Let's see here. Oh man, I always get confused by which is the accept button. It's like backwards. A button is the accept button, D button is the back button, I think. No, A is back. Well, that's right, A is back and D is accept, which is like backwards of like a 360 controller, so you have to get used to that. It's a bit of a mindfuck if you're used to modern day controllers. So let us test. What should we test? How about Wave Race? Wave Race, yes. Okay, so this will be good. because the title screen will allow me to show it off without actually playing it. There we go. And as you can tell, the audio is perfectly synced up. And my monitor just went to sleep. Sorry about that, folks. And it runs perfectly. Some audio issues there, but during gameplay, everything is running perfect. And frankly, gameplay is what matters the most. So I've noticed that, you know, the menus actually look really good. I've done N64 emulation on the PC before, and let's put the volume down. And usually this map does not render on the PC, and it does here, which is fantastic. And you'll be able to see that the frame rate is great, the graphics are great. Now, I haven't made these settings optimal for this game because I had it set up for F-Zero, so there are some slight issues, but you can change plugins, everything should be fine. Wave Race, I've noticed, at least on the other Mupen 64 emulator, works very well with the 10th Anniversary Edition plugin, so take that for what you will. But Mario 64 worked well with the first one, as does F-Zero X. So let us show you PC Engine. Here's Bomberman, which is my favorite PC Engine game. So let's see how you had this mapped. And here we have Bomberman. Runs perfectly. Quite enjoyable. You can even use a joystick. Look at that. Analog control in a digital game. I want to go up there. Oh no, oh, I'm playing it backwards, what do you expect? So yeah, fantastic system. Great emulators. There's plenty more emulators where that came from, but I don't want to bore you. Let's just say it does its job really, really well. I'm very impressed with the N64 stuff. In particular, we noticed games work perfectly on the system, or damn near perfectly on a system that do not play on PC perfectly at all, even though the PC is infinitely powerful compared to this, which is really weird. So I'm not sure if that's an app thing or if it's the hardware or what's going on. Also, I also noticed that the game is able to go ahead and do some games that not even the EverDrive can do, which is really fantastic. So if you have an EverDrive for your N64 or your other systems, this can play games that you are not able to play, which is great. Of course, you have built-in cheats, save states, memory cards, that type of thing. You can change control schemes on the fly with any of these emulators. It's a really, really great system. So let's go back to the box here. I'm going to open up the box off screen. Maybe. Maybe not. There we are. So this comes with a bag for your system to go in. That little protector that was on the back. It has a screen protector on it. I would take it off. It's very matte and it comes pre-scratched. It looks a lot better color-wise too without the thing. It's Gorilla Glass, so you should be fine. Don't worry about it getting scratched. It's not plastic. The system sits, that just fell, in here. It's like a little rubber cutout, which is okay. This is like a construction paper, rather cheap. And that's where all these cords were. Comes with some really cheap knockoff, oops, Apple looking earbuds, except even more fugly, and I'm sure they work just as badly. There's this mini USB to USB, and you get a large USB to USB cord for your PC, and then the power adapter, which is not shown because it's in my wall. And that's it. Unfortunately, you do not get a mini HDMI to HDMI cord for your television. This thing is capable of it though, so if you find the cord, or if you already have one, you will be able to play whatever you see on your screen on your HD TV. Another option, if you don't want the cord, is this little app right here. And that is, over here, there we are, right there, dun dun dun. And that is called Wi-Fi display. If you have a smart TV, you can go ahead and sync this over Wi-Fi to your screen, and it'll display the image that way over Wi-Fi, which is great if you have a smart TV. I don't have one. I think it's kind of a waste. I already use my gaming systems for Netflix and all that type of stuff, so I never bothered to buy one. So I cannot tell you how good that works. But even if I did have a smart TV, I know I wouldn't use it. And the reason why I say that is there is one problem with this system. It's not enough not to buy it, unless you're using it more as a tablet than a gaming system, which then I would not recommend this. And that is because there seems to be a problem with many people, including myself, getting units in which the Wi-Fi adapter drops support in and out, in and out, in and out. Very often. Let's just put it this way. It's so often that if I do a Google image search for anything, it'll show about the first 5 rows, and then the rest won't be able to load in time before it blipped out. For downloads, this isn't a problem. When it goes in and out, the download will just kind of stop and then kind of come back in. You don't even really notice it. Same with YouTube videos, you don't notice it. But like I said, Google Images, it's a problem. And sometimes when you first go into a browser, you're trying to search for a page. Sometimes you might have to hit retry or refresh a couple times before it'll actually go through. The worst part is trying to download apps sometimes from the Google Play Store. I've noticed that once the download starts, it will never stop. So if it starts downloading, then you're set. But you might have to retry a couple times because it'll say that it's failed because you're not connected to the store. So that little quibble aside, it's a fantastic system. There is a way to fix that. Apparently it's because of a bad solder job, and if you desolder that Wi-Fi like antenna that's inside the system from the battery, which unfortunately I don't know why they decide to use that same terminal area to attach the Wi-Fi battery and the battery, or the Wi-Fi antenna and the battery, but if you desolder that and separate them and then resolder it back together, it should solve all of your Wi-Fi problems. The system's way too new, and I don't care about Wi-Fi at all, seeing as I'm not doing typical tablet activities on it. I'm just playing offline games. For me to risk opening it up and trying to do solder job on it. This is not very easy to open up. There's no access door, so you're going to be going through plastic clips that may or may not break. And then even then, you have a lot of little ribbons and stuff that you need to detach in order to get to the layers underneath that has the battery and the antenna. It's kind of labor intensive. I've seen some videos and some pictures of people doing it, and while I'm more than happy to go ahead and completely disassemble a Dreamcast or an N64 or an NES or Super Nintendo or Genesis with my eyes closed and my hands tied behind my back, this I would not attempt. It looked way too hard for me. Be that as it may, you can get these for really cheap, and that might offset your concerns. Me and Mike got one. Mike has not gotten his in yet, but we both got ours for a fraction of what this thing goes for technically on MSRP. MSRP's for $149. We got it for a couple Jacksons less than that. And if you think about the value that you have, you don't necessarily need to have all those video game systems all of a sudden sitting underneath your shelf, and you get everything for free. like literally not. I would not condone that, but you're probably going to do it anyway. So, great system, fantastic screen, fantastic controllers. The emulators, particularly if you have the most up-to-date versions of those things, work great with this system. They all automatically seem to identify the controls in the system, which is very nice. The only one I had to actually tell it to go somewhere was the PCE emulation software, and all it did was say press a button. When I pressed the button, it recognized all those buttons. I had to map them, but it recognized that all those buttons existed for me to use. And once I turned off the on-screen control, everything was fantastic. Comes with a MAME and Capcom coin-op and Neo Geo coin-op app as well, which is fantastic. And it plays those games flawlessly. It's a really powerful little emulation tablet, basically, at the end of the day. And I can honestly sit here and say that I like it infinitely more than my 3DS or my Vita. In fact, I would not recommend a 3DS or a Vita over this. I think if you had $120 lying around, I would recommend this thing, because frankly the games were better back then, and this plays all of them in your pocket. The battery life will last you 5 hours playing, meaning that you can play N64 games, PlayStation 1 games for 5 hours straight, and you will be able to keep the device on. That's amazing, especially considering those $1,000 custom, portable N64s, which are huge, usually have like an hour battery life. You got everything in your hands here. Long battery life, idle, it lasted me all day and more. In fact, I haven't charged this since this morning, and it's still going strong. I think I have a little bit over half battery life. I've been playing intermittently throughout the day. Really great system. You can also upgrade Android to other versions and root it. So it'll be a little faster if you do that, which is great. And otherwise, I can't recommend the system enough. Even as a stock system, keeping it stock 4.2.2, and just updating the emulators, it's just fantastic, and I wholly recommend it. Mike will, I'm sure, be doing a video on his thoughts of the system once he gets this in. He's going to have to wait a few more days. And we also might go ahead and do a video in which we both talk about it together. Not so much of a bite-sized episode, I'm sorry this is reaching 30 minutes, but my name is Darryl Benson. I really hope you pick up one of these things. Again, it's a JXD s, what is this called? 7800b. Horrible name, great system. I'll catch you later.